So let's talk about People's Reserve. You've been building this for 4 years, and this really is a product for people who have significant wealth in Bitcoin already, right? And you are providing a means for them to unlock it. Who's this for? How do they use it? And what's the best way to move forward with People's Reserve?
Absolutely. So yeah, it's really built for two main consumers. The first one has Bitcoin savings. They've been a responsible saver of Bitcoin. They've earned and they've taken those earnings and they've saved it in Bitcoin. And then they have allowed Bitcoin to do what it's engineered to do, which is to compound wealth at the best rates that we've ever seen in human history. And it will continue to do that through its engineered design. They want to buy a home like myself. I paid 100 Bitcoin. So, that's $12 million. Like my home is barely worth $500,000, especially in this illiquid market. I'd be lucky to get 500,000. If I still have my Bitcoin, I have 12 million on my balance sheet. We have a Bitcoin powered mortgage product line. Under that product line, we have what we call a self-repaying mortgage and a home equity Bitcoin line of credit. So if you own Bitcoin, you want to buy a home, you want to unlock the purchasing power of your Bitcoin without giving up ownership, then you come to us and we will finance you. We will make sure that you can post that Bitcoin as collateral, get the financing with no credit check, no income verification, one-to-one collateral to loan value to initiate. Most importantly, no rehypothecation whatsoever. The home equity Bitcoin line of credit is now coming from the opposite side. You bought your home during the zero interest rate policy timeframe. So you got a great rate. You've been paying your mortgage payment for a few years now, or even 5 or 10 years, and you have some equity in your home. And like Janet Yellen said, for most Americans, the most important source of wealth they have is in their home equity. Well, at People's Reserve, that's our other main demographic for our Bitcoin powered mortgage. It's not just the responsible savers of Bitcoin. It was the hard workers who went and bought a house and who have benefited from that purchase and now have the equity in their home. But look, you must transform your home equity into Bitcoin equity or you are going to continue to fall behind. So you're basically just keeping up with the real rate of inflation. So those are the two main things that come from the Bitcoin powered mortgage product line. You have Bitcoin, you want to buy a home, we're your people. You have a house and you know that you need to transform that equity from home equity to Bitcoin equity, we're your people. And it works the same way under both product lines. Variable interest rates, Bitcoin held as collateral, all the benefits that you get with our contracts, you get in both of those product lines. And we think that's the next big source of buying. Like right now we have the Bitcoin treasury companies, we have the sovereign wealth funds, and we have the strategic Bitcoin reserve. These are big pools of liquidity that needs to get out of home equity and into Bitcoin equity. That's the next big pool of liquidity that's going to come in and boost Bitcoin to prices that I think most people right now would think are unfathomable. We believe that the best way to spend your Bitcoin is with borrowed dollars. So of course it just makes sense to have your own stable coin. But at People's Reserve, we couldn't be more excited to give participation rewards to users of PRUSD. This is I wasn't planning on this, but you asked, and I'm gonna share this. This is the first time I'm sharing this information. When you hold PRUSD, whether you hold it on our platform or not, you will actually earn participation rewards. You will earn wrapped Bitcoin. We call it PRBTC. So for the first time, holding and using stablecoins will actually reward you with Bitcoin. And we couldn't be more excited to introduce that to the marketplace.
And so it seems like we're entering into this wildcat banking era, right? Where these banks are going to be issuing their own stable coins, trying to allure customers to come towards them with some sort of rewards, incentives, right? So yeah, paint us a picture of 5-10 years from now where JP Morgan's got their own coin and Bitcoin is underlying all of it. What does the banking world look like for the average person in that kind of environment?
I wish more Bitcoiners were asking this question for the everyday person through mortgage products, cash flow products, and such. So we're at the very beginning of what I believe is going to be a transition from this fixed, stated, and anchored yield curve to a true free market yield curve. And people ask me, maybe they're not familiar with the yield curve. It's just how we discover interest rates. So that the front end of the yield curve is very short duration. So it's called the federal funds rate. It's an overnight banking rate. And then from there, you get into swaps. And then the first real is the treasury bill. It's a 90-day expiration. And then from there you go to the notes, and then you go to the bonds, and the yield curve goes out the timeline. And the longer the duration, typically the higher the yield curve. If the yield curve is inverted and goes lower, it's like a free market signal saying, hey, something could be wrong here. We anticipate rates to go lower. We anticipate some macro issues that force the bankers to lower rates and inject liquidity. We anticipate some macro issues that force the bankers to lower rates and inject liquidity. So we use it as a signal. But in the free market internet economy right now, there is nothing to replace the federal funds rate. Yeah, we have some futures, but those are based on perpetual contracts are based on bullishness and bearishness. They're not really based on the price of money. So what do you really have? I believe it's going to be companies like People's Reserve and MicroStrategy and Metaplanet. When they are lending to each other as central banks of the internet economy, that interbank lending rate between those parties is going to actually replace the federal funds rate. So the overnight banking rate will actually be the rate at which People's Reserve borrows from MicroStrategy or MicroStrategy borrows from Metaplanet. That will formulate the very front end of the yield curve. From there, the rest of the yield curve is built out with Bitcoin-powered financial products, whether it be a 5-year bond, 10-year bond, 15-year mortgage, maybe even 30-year mortgage. All of those durations will be spread across the curve, and we will be able to get an accurate price of money. But on top of that, it's not just what Hal said with free market banking. I believe Saylor and his digital asset framework is accurate too. MicroStrategy is going to issue tokenized securities one day of companies. Saylor calls it ABTs, like tokenized oil or tokenized copper or wood. And everything's going to be priced in Satoshis and settled on Bitcoin.
And one thing I really enjoy about you and your commentary is that it's so clear that you've thought so deeply about Bitcoin in every aspect of your life.